All right, we'll get started. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining our webinar, Doxim CCM Release 12.0. My name is Crystal Bork. I am the Manager of Content and Marketing Communications here at Doxim, and I'll be our moderator for today. Before we begin, I've got a couple of housekeeping items to cover. The first is to minimize any background noise. You'll notice that attendees have been placed in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. But please don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have in the Q&A section. We're going to answer those questions at the end of the webinar during some Q&A time. Secondly, this webinar is being recorded, and a copy will be emailed to you and any registrants who are unable to attend today. So please feel free to share that with your team and take some time to review it after this live event. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. I'm going to hand it over to Raymond Williamson, Doxim's Director of Product Management, who will walk us through what you can expect from our 12.0 CCM release.
Hey everyone. For those of you who know me, hello. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Raymond Williamson, and I am the Director of Product Management for our CCM platform. And I'm going to take you through what we're calling a mini release. I'm just gonna... this mini release will be available on or upgraded on March 16th. Like all of our other releases, your user credentials will not change. There's nothing you need to do on your part. File upload processes won't change. This is a background update. This is a fairly large release, and we set a large timeline for it because a number of the features were larger and a little more complex, required a little more timing, a little more testing and integration within our multi-product suite of applications. We felt, though, that it was important to get some of the smaller features that customers have been asking for, or some of the smaller features that we felt we could get out the door in an independent process to make your lives easier, to make the product a little bit better, and to constantly provide functionality and improvements to our platform. So we've made some upgrades to our CXP. We've changed or we've added some logging and exception handling. Not a lot of you will take advantage of it, but some of you do have developers and some of you are doing integration. So this will have significance for you. We are in the middle of a few deployments of our self-service correspondence module. So for those folks that are either in the middle of that upgrade or in the middle of those deployments, or are considering the platform or would like to know a little more about it, I will share some upgrades to our self-service correspondence platform. I'll also do a small demo. We're talking about some additional functionality we've added to our identity provision service and our ECM. Some additional logging in our ECM, some additional support security, and then finally a bounce reporting script. So this is a very small feature, but I'm opening with it because I think it's kind of fun. A lot of you have, it has come up more than once, but it's always been a variation of statements. So the value of changing from mortgage statements to monthly statements to bank statements, using a common label called statements seemed to be fine. But as we're using more and more documents, more and more document types, we felt it was fitting to change to make sure that the labels reflected exactly what the menu said. So what you'll see in the upcoming release is when the user navigates to a page on the CXP, whatever it says in this menu item is what will appear in the header and what will appear here in the first column to tell them what kind of document type it is. And in the event that there's an error message, or not an error message, but a no documents found message, it would say there are no member statements available at this time. So it's a little feature, but it's a UI enhancement that we think your customers will appreciate. There is no work that needs to be done on your part. This is something that will just immediately become available. So for those of you who are doing integrations, or for those of you who are consuming some of our APIs, or those of you who are uploading documents via API into our application, we found that there was a certain number of questions that we were commonly receiving about the integrations. Once the integrations were working, they were fine. But what we determined was, when you're getting an error message, or when you're trying to do an integration, or in some cases when it's an error message that's appearing, we felt it was important to improve the messaging in our APIs and in our GUI. The purpose of this was really to increase our speed in responding to problems, and then decrease the time it takes to resolve issues. It should stream internally within Doxim. This is one of those things that is going to streamline our implementations by providing more information to our teams. And all of this is intended to improve your satisfaction with our responsiveness, speed of implementations, and basically to provide additional details for our customers' developers. This feature will be available as the platform rolls out. So those of you taking advantage of it, or those of you who are interfacing with our application, will see additional logging and exception handling messages. And to give you an idea of the extent of those, I'm not going to go into each one of them in detail, but across our CCM platform, we've created logging and exception handling across our ECM, our digital business messaging, our DDF integrations, our customer experience portal integrations, our SSO login. When querying the ECM from either your API or from an external application. Within our development platform, job processing is an application that sits between our print floor and our ECM for uploading files. When documents are open in the ECM, potentially new errors or new messages there. And then finally, where this one is very important, as we work on our identity provision service and our single sign-ons, and many of you probably will see these most often when you're doing your integration between your platform and our applications, a series of additional logging and exception handling messages should speed up those implementations. Some of you may be familiar with our self-service correspondence module. That is an application that we have built into our platform that will allow you to compose from a template ad hoc letters, upload your own email list or mailing list, like you were doing a mail merge, preview that document, the entire batch. So if you have 500 letters or 5,000 letters, you would actually be able to download that entire document set, preview it, and if you're happy with it, then submit it to our print floor directly and watch it move through the print process right out the door. So what we have done in that process is we've made a number of enhancements to streamline and to improve the user interface. So the first thing we did, for those of you who are using the tool, or for those who are interested, what we've done is we've consolidated a couple of the menus into a couple of the 3-dot menus into 2 tabs instead of 3. And what we've done is we've pulled forward additional information into the landing page. If you are using the application, you'll know that we use the job ID to track the job through the system. So we've put the job ID and the name of your template as the primary fields. And we were asked to basically let customers know how many pages the batch was. So what we've done is we've pulled data out of some of the detailed pages behind the scenes and pulled that forward. And really what we've done is this job detail page. What we've done is we've taken this job detail page, we've removed it, and we've moved that data forward to the landing page. So now there are only two menus: edit the status of the job and view the samples. The other thing we've added is we have integrated self-service correspondence into our document lifecycle reporting workflow. So after the generator is generated, the customer will be able to preview it, track the process through our composition and our print mail facilities. In order to do that, what we've done is, I'm going to go back up a screen. To ensure that it's logical what you're looking at, when you create that job in self-service correspondence, you're going to give it a name, and we're going to give it a job ID. When it hits our print floor, our composition engine, we're going to take the template name that was created, and we're going to append to it the job ID number. And what this will allow you to do is to connect the dots between the self-service correspondence engine that generated the document and our print floor. Once that job has been created, workflow will automatically move it to the event handling service, which will show you that the file has been received. From there, it will automatically move into the composition engine, and where you'll see that we have added the job name here. We have your internal job name for billing. It will tell you what the status of the job is. It will tell you if there's a sample ready. At this point, you would be able to preview the job document again, this time with the print marks on it. So you'll see exactly the way it's going to look like when it gets put into the envelope. And then finally, after your approval, it would end up on our print status reporting reports, where you'll be able to actually see the job being printed and how the job is moving through the print and composition process. At the end of the session, I will do a quick walkthrough as to how this works. So identity provision services. So I don't think there's a single one of us that hasn't tried to log into something where they've asked to send us a text message or verify the application on an app, or send us a phone call, or send us an email with a 6-digit or an 8-digit code where we validate on a second device. That's either multi-factor authentication or 2-factor authentication. Well, that sharing of a one-time password is what we call identity provision. So that's IDP. And right now, or up until this point, our IDP service, we've leveraged formerly Azure AD, that's now called Entra ID, to provide those services. A number of clients have asked if we could provide some level of IDP ourselves without needing to go out to a third party. So what we have done is within our ECM specifically, for those clients who are using an API to access our documents, this will allow for the API to validate the customer endpoint before the API is passed. Later on this year, we will be integrating that IDP to be able to send the 2-factor authentication. So the first stage of this is to be able to add third-party validation to our API connections. This feature will require consultation with our professional services group to implement. So if you have any interest, please speak to your account team. I did notice a question pop up. I'll make sure I get to it at the end of the session. This feature that is coming up, what we have added to the user management audit features, we've added additional audit logging to forgot password events, to password change events, and to email change events. And so what that will allow is for your IT departments to be mindful or be aware of any changes. For those of you connecting to our ECM or logging into our ECM or using our ECM, whenever there's a password change, we will actually be recording that event. We will not be recording the new password. We will be recording how the password was changed, whether it was done doing the forgot password from the customer changing it, whether it was from one of our staff changing the password or administrator changing it, or if there was a change to the email address where those emails are, where that reset password is being changed to. This is available to all ECM customers in the existing report. So, and many of you have access to our reporting module. So when we go to the user logging report, you will see that if you would see a new column, or you'll see new data in the operation column. That would be for password change, forgot password, updated user. And if it's modified by someone else, you would see who was the person logged in that modified that password or the email change. So PKCE, right? Proof of key code exchange. I'll maybe talk to you about that for a second. So proof of key code exchange is a process that occurs between the requesting application, which would be your browser, your mobile phone. And what happens is, typically what happens is when that browser or mobile phone makes a request to us, one of our servers, we generate a token, and that token is used to connect to our server. Now, the current authorization grant code lasted for about 900 milliseconds, which, if you think about it, is not long. It's a couple of seconds, and so up to 900 seconds. So it's a couple of minutes to keep that session alive, so it doesn't check the authorization for each session request. However, someone could download a sniffer onto your tool. They could download malicious software onto your computer. And if someone has downloaded that malicious software onto your computer, that authorization code could be intercepted. And so basically what we've done with PKCE is every request goes from your device to the authentication server, which is Azure or Entra ID, to get a new token for each request. And what that does is it dramatically reduces the possibility of that code being intercepted. And this is specifically from customers who are logging into ECM. For customers who are using Azure or Entra ID to access our DAP, Doxim admin portal, or our customer experience portal, PKC was already supported. So this is just us completing that implementation to support those that are doing an SSO or two-factor authentication connection into our ECM. This is a fairly simple implementation, but it does require consultation with our professional services group, and there is probably half to 3/4 of a day worth of effort involved in doing this. So should you be interested in turning this on, please speak to your account team. The last feature that I'm going to talk about that's going to be available in this mini release is the ability for Doxim to report on bounced emails that are sent when you send out your statement ready notifications. So for customers who are doing a lot of electronic delivery, who are sending statement ready notifications to their customers every month, or sending trade confirmations every day, or sending invoice notifications every day, occasionally a customer's email will go bad. They'll change jobs, they'll forget to inform us, their mail server will be down. And in those cases, that email will be recorded as a hard bounce and the customer will not receive that communication. So what we have built is a script that will run against the email delivery database, and it will generate a report daily to say, these are the emails that have bounced. These are the emails that all of the emails that you have sent that have bounced. We will then be able to report on which job or which batch the email was processed. And that will allow us to tell you which document was not delivered. Now, for customers who have a requirement for a fallback, we have extended this process with our DDF team to be able to pass them a data file so they can automatically trigger a reprint and a transmission of that document via print. And the reason you do that is managing bounced emails is very important for the deliverability of your overall messages, and it helps you maintain your organization's reputation. So the first part of this is knowing which emails have bounced on a regular basis. The second part is for clients who have compliance requirements to provide a document within a set time window, be it a bill, a trade confirm, a notice, a tax document. This will allow you with the backup method to switch the consumer's preference, the member's preference to print, allow you to rerun the job and send them a printed version of it until such time as the email address has been updated. This is a somewhat elaborate feature, so should you be interested in turning this on, you will require a consultation with our professional services group to implement this. You will need to speak to your account team. This is one of the larger stories, so this isn't something you could turn on next Wednesday, but this is something that if you're interested in, we can definitely work towards providing you those bounce reports and some of this redundancy. On a note, you could just receive the bounce reports and then to update your mail, and then if you needed to send backup, that would be a second process. So those processes, so that first process of just getting a bounce report is something that can happen in addition. I'm going to skip this question window, and I'm going to take a moment to talk about some of the other features that will come in the second half of the release. So, and I'm just going to skim through this quickly so you know what's coming. So in the second half of the release, there are a number of you who manage the marketing messages in the Doxim admin portal. What we're going to do is we're going to upload the upload marketing message feature in DAP for those of you who are using DAP and DDF. And what those improvements will do, it will give the customer, will give you more control of timing and content and versioning of the images. So it'll give you the ability to go back to old images and reuse them. It'll give you the ability to set more than one image into a zone, and it will give you the ability to set timing of an image to say, use this time, start using this image at this date. This will be a feature that will be available both in Canada and the United States. This will require integration and work with our professional services team. For those of you who do a lot of administration within the Doxim admin portal, what we're doing based on feedback from our customers and our internal staff, we are consolidating and moving some of the controls around in the DAP to make them more feature specific opposed to function specific. And what I mean is, if there are 3 functions that I need to enable to make sure a feature works completely, we're turning on or enabling all of those functions on the same page where possible. So that will make it easier for our customer to enable or disable a feature and know that they've gotten all of the settings. This feature is probably the largest feature we're going to roll out in the next release. We've had a lot of response and a lot of request for what we're calling informed visibility. And informed visibility is the ability for those of you using our document lifecycle reporting, informed visibility is the ability for you to look at the print status reporting report, look at a specific mail piece to a specific member, and be able to click on the link, which will track the intelligent mail barcode, which is the IMB code, and actually query USPS and know where that package is or that letter is on its way to a customer. That is a one customer at a time. So it's a very tactical. Customers said they didn't get their new credit card. A customer's called that says they didn't get an invoice or a bill or a letter, and that we want to know that it's on its way. What we are doing is we are extending that capability. Oh, sorry. One of the things is that data is only stored at USPS for 45 days, and they are constantly recycling the intelligent mail barcode codes. So we have a number of customers who've asked us to download that USPS informed visibility data and deliver piecemeal for longer. And so what we've done is we're building an integration between our Doxim admin portal and our print center and USPS to be downloading that data so that you'll be able to query delivered pieces for a longer period of time. This is a feature that will also require consultation with our professional services team. You will need to upgrade your application to use document lifecycle reporting. But if you are interested in or have the need to track mail pieces to the door using informed visibility, or to have a record of mail pieces being delivered, please reach out to your account team. And I thought I'd start with a tiny small feature. Within our document lifecycle reporting, we've added, we're going to start tracking the file name that you give us. So we all know that at every job or every batch starts with you giving us a file that includes data that we will turn into documents and communicate them. Most of those processes are automated, and most of those processes are trackable by Doxim. Many of you have implemented or are considering implementing document lifecycle reporting. So for customers who have an automated process and a lot of call it need to know that we have received the file on time and be able to follow a specific file all the way through across the print floor, this allows you to know that your file has been received. We can look at the file name. You can watch that file name as it is picked up by DDF, and then when the job gets to the print floor, that file name will follow the job through the process. So you'll have better visibility into the data you've given us to ensure that it's being processed. I'm going to, for a second, stop this and jump into those demos that I promised you. So the first one, if you can see this, and hopefully this login hasn't timed out, but as you can see, the menu here says current news, and the header here says current news. If I were to flip to member statements, it's going to say member statements here. It's going to say member statements here on the top of the column. If I were to flip to mortgage statements, it's going to say mortgage statements here, and the error message or the warning or the notice message is going to say no mortgage statements selected for this menu. And there is no work on your part. So by changing these menu items in the Doxim admin portal, they will be reflected here in the customer experience portal. And this is automatic. You need to do nothing. I was going to dive in and show you a little bit about our self-service correspondence module, and hopefully this hasn't timed out. And it's querying the server to get the list of jobs. Oh, sorry, I need to switch to a working customer. So this is a customer that we have in demo. And so what I see here is a couple of pilot jobs that I ran today to make sure everything was working fine. You have a job ID, you have a custom template, you have the master template. It says how many pages, it tells me the status of the job. I can log in here and I can click down and I can look at the samples for this job. And from this, I can download the samples to see that I have all the pages that I was expecting. I'm actually, while I'm here, I'm actually going to show you how this works. So I'm going to go back to this page. And I'm going to add a job. And what's happened is we've created a number of templates. This template that I'm looking at is what we're going to call a working or a blank template. And so what we've done on this template is we've placed the image header, we've placed the date, we've placed the address block, we've placed the data fields, right? We've placed the data fields in the document, but you as the user can edit this content in this WYSIWYG editor. You can add additional pages. So if you wanted to make this a 3-page document, so you can add pages, you can insert text blocks. So you can basically create a letter from scratch. From this page, you would be able to save a working copy and come back later. You'd be able to upload your data and preview this. I'm going to actually submit this job for processing, and during that, you'll actually get to see the preview and the save state all in process. So I'm going to submit a job. And the first thing I'm going to do, it's going to ask me to do is to get my data file. So your data file is a standard, right? Comma, right? Separated value, right? Delimited file. And I'm not going to save that. So I'm going to upload my data file. And I've got a bunch of variables, so I need to map the variables on the document to the variables in my data field, right? So here's the list of all of the columns in my spreadsheet, and here's all of the data variables on the page. And I'm actually going to fill it out as though I'm going to process it. And I'm doing it in this order because I'm doing it in this order because I want to make sure I've got all the date fields. So I've got statement date, first name, last name. I've got all my address variables. I've got my city field. I've got my state field, and I do it this way because it logically to me, I make sure that I've got all the address fields because that's how I think of an address. These do not need to be in the right order, but I tend to follow this process. Provider name, provider name, provider termination date, provider termination date. I'm going to submit this. And so it's going to ask me to save it and give it a name. It's going to show me a preview of all of the pages that I generated. And that's going to process. So it's going to say that it has been submitted. It will bring me back to this page and it will show that I have received it. Now it's going to do some steps in the background, but basically as a user, I'm going to see this document appear. It's going to then give me a sample. So I can now look at the sample documents to preview them. I can download them and keep a copy. So these are my previews. And I'm going to refresh this to see if it's happened yet. All right, and in a couple minutes, this will actually get flipped to proof ready. And when it's set to proof ready, I'll be able to actually go in and this one will say completed, but basically I'll be able to change it to approved, at which point it will get composed and passed along into our document lifecycle reporting. And these are ones that I ran from before, but basically it will show that that file was received. And from here, I can look at the composition status. We've just upgraded the demo, so I need to make a quick change, but I'd be able to look in and see the composition status. And from there, I'd be able to log in and look at the print status report. So if there was data here, I'd be able to see the print status report. So for those of you who have a lot of ad hoc mail or want the ability to be able to create and generate a document, you'll have that capability. And as you'll notice here, right, this has been set to proof ready. It takes a couple minutes, but there's the proof that I just ran. And from there, I would be able to go in and edit that document. And I would be able to set it to approved. The approval process could be a separate permission. So you may have individuals within your organization that can generate documents, but that can't necessarily approve them. So you might have a special permission for those folks who can approve jobs. And then I would save this. And if I mapped my data correctly, which often I rush when I'm doing a demo, it will process successfully. And it will be marked as, right, I just passed 4 documents to the print floor. And in about 20 minutes or half an hour, we would actually move that file to the print floor. I'm going to show you one last document, one last change. So we talked about the bounce report. So and I'll probably have to log out here and log back in. We talked about the bounce report. And so what happens with the bounce report when it's fully implemented is assume that we have run the bounce report. And I'm going to go to this member page. And what will happen is the bounce report, when properly configured, will have the ability to, if the person was set to electronic, it would set them to print. So for those of you familiar with our last release, we added the capability for you at the member level to set the consumer to electronic print or both. So what this allows for is what the bounce report is going to do is it will automatically update the setting. So on the next batch, that person would receive documents in a printed manner until such time as you had a valid email address and you updated this setting. This setting can also be updated through a member update or through a batch process. So those were the things I wanted to show you. And there were a couple of questions in the There were a couple of questions. Oh, at that comment was not a question. Are there any questions at this time? I'm going to go back to my
You
presentation.
have a couple on our Q&A panel if we want to touch on those now.
Sure.
Excellent. So the first question is, are the menu items, headers, and description all configurable to meet our preferred verbiage?
Yes. So while I'm in, so in DAP, under customer portal, under menu setup, menu management, right? Current news, member statements, mortgage statements, tax documents, notifications. By editing these, if I change this to buttons, it would change in the CXP the next time we logged in to buttons. Hopefully that answered your question.
Excellent. If not, feel free to
Yeah.
add to your comment. The next question is regarding areas where there are numerous pages, some having thousands or more. Is there going to be a way to jump to a specific page?
Um, that's a great question. So there's two ways to do that. So in the preview, if you don't want a million pages, you might want to so let's suppose I want to run this as, for example, I want to preview it first. Well, maybe I upload a data file with only 20 or 30 records, so I get to see the layout. If you want to go through the PDF and go through the many pages, I would say the best way approach to do that would be to open this with Adobe Acrobat, a professional PDF tool, and that would allow you to jump to specific pages.
Excellent. Those are the questions that we've got so far. Again, if anyone has any questions, please do add them to our Q&A section. But Ray, do you have any final thoughts?
I want to thank you all for your time. Again, my name is Raymond Williamson. I'm the Director of Product Management here at Doxim. I think most of you have my email address, or you can contact your account manager or your customer service rep or your customer service manager for any questions, and I'm sure they will get to me. If there was nothing else, I'm going to put 14 minutes back in your day and wish you a good afternoon.
We
Oh,
have one question. It
oh,
just came in.
oh, inches away
Eh,
from getting.
I know, right? Just beat the buzzer. Any chance there will be guides or screenshots of these changes outside of the recording to share with staff?
Great comment. The release notes. The release notes. Uh, the release notes will be ready for all of these and are currently ready. So why don't I make sure that everybody gets a copy of the release notes with this presentation? So yes, the release notes for this are ready. They actually go into quite a little bit more detail. So for those of you who are interested in a little more detail of all the features, who want a detailed description of how the IDP is actually implemented, we have the release notes available here. So yes, the release notes will go out with the presentation.
Perfect. Well, I think that's it for questions for today. If any questions do come up in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I just want to also thank you so much for attending this session today. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And as mentioned, you'll be receiving the webinar in your email. So just keep an eye out for that. And it will be sent shortly and this week. So have a wonderful rest of your day and thanks so much.